I do think these mid-sized banks needed some regulatory relief.
Some folks want to immediately rush to a new regulation. Let's figure out what happened first.
There's been a lot of talk about Silicon Valley Bank wasn't being regulated because of a bill passed back in 2018 or 2019. That's not true.
There are elements of Dodd-Frank that were rolled back under the Trump administration. Some have argued that even led to this as well.
This is not really a failure of regulation. This is a failure of supervision.
People like Senator Warren and others saying that we need more regulations, that we need regulators that are actually applying the regulations already on the books.
We rolled back regulations. Donald Trump, the Republicans, support from some of the Democrats.
In 2018, you were one of 17 Democrats to vote with Republicans to ease regulations on smaller banks. If those rules were not rolled back, would that have protected SVB or Signature Bank from failing?
You know, Don, I think it remains to be seen.
What you're seeing there is the power of the banking industry. You're seeing the power of Wall Street right there.
We are doing very modest and very limited changes to Dodd-Frank, and we're proud of this bill.
When you take the jackboots of an oppressive federal regime off the throats, really, of business, you get a pop.
The regulators were asleep at the wheel.
I hope the regulators will weigh in and investigate and decide exactly what happened and explain that to us.
We had Democrats and Republicans join in 2018 to repeal the very capital holding requirements that create a cushion for this exact size of bank.
The fault has to first lay at management.
So I think the 2018 bill was a good bill.
And we had a bipartisan approach to this.
Finally addressing some of the excesses of Dodd-Frank.
We tried to take the burden off of the small community banks and even the mid-sized banks. And that's all we did. And everybody agreed, and it was bipartisan.
The really important lesson that we have to internalize from this whole episode is just how dangerous it is to have extremely imprudent monetary policy.
These banks are run by your neighbors. They're owned by your neighbors. And I think they know better what the community needs than a federal regulator.
This is simply blame shifting by the president because he knows that his policies are what caused this.
Today, U.S. Senator Joe Manchin released this statement on the collapse. He said, quote, "America's banks and our financial system are overall strong and sound.
We now have evidence of what happens when you ease up on the regulation for banks of that size. We're going to have to determine whether or not new regulations would actually be needed or not.
Do you stand by your vote for less bank regulation?
Would I stand by that vote with what I knew then? Absolutely. And by the way, what I know now, probably so.